Hey everybody, I'm Josh Olive with Haven Comics. It's Thursday night, which means it's time for some shop talk. So we're gonna talk some shop. It's gonna be awesome. We have a really fun show lined up for tonight, so stick around, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, we're not gonna waste any time. We're gonna jump right into it tonight because we have an awesome show lined up that I'm very excited about. Before we get to the really cool stuff, though, here's Alan.
I thought I was really cool stuff.
You're all right.
Okay, I'm seeing like, okay, I was seeing like all sorts of issues. Maybe it's just this computer.
You having a problem there?
Well, can you see our guest on his camera?
Yeah.
I can't see him at all. I didn't see the intro or anything.
Well, that's not good. I can see him and I can see you. So the problem is not me. That's all I know.
Yeah, and I need to see him because I got what possibly might be a bone to pick with him about issue 1.
Uh-oh. Well, I guess we better bring him on real quick so you can get started on that. And let's see if we can suss out your technical issues. Alan, can you see Mr. Jeff Johnson?
I see nothing but a spinning wheel.
Well, that is unfortunate. See, because he can see you.
Is he talking?
Yeah. Hi. Let me.
I can't even hear him talking.
Okay, so
I'm going to reboot.
Oh, it's not you, Jeff. It's Alan.
Yeah, it's me. I'm going to reboot my computer, and I'll be back shortly.
So while he's gone, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
It's been a minute since we got to talk to you. I think that was before the first issue came out.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And for anybody who is like, what's he talking about? First issue of what? We'll have to tell you. It's a book called Rogue's Kingdom, which Jeff is doing. He told us about this book in 2020.
Yeah.
During COVID, we did because all the cons were getting canceled and everything, we kind of did an at-home con. And you were kind enough to come on for a really lengthy discussion about comics and what you've been up to and all this kind of stuff. And you showed me a little bit of art from way back then.
Right.
You know, I can make you bigger. Let's do that. Here you go. Oops, that's the wrong one. There we go.
There we go.
That is Rogue's Kingdom #1 right there.
That's issue 1.
And that's drawn. That the art is by Jeff, who is here with us tonight, and it's written by James Robinson, who is not a slouch.
He's pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing dude.
Yeah.
With a tremendous history in comics. What an amazing guy.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
So the two of you are a really deadly duo there, and I love it.
Well, thanks for saying so. Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about this book forever. It has taken me so long to get this book into people's hands, and I'm just glad that they've been very patient with the process.
Well, 5 years ago, you showed me a picture of the lion guy.
Oh yeah,
the lion head, right? And I was hooked right then. You didn't have to show me anything else. I already knew I liked this book.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, he shows
Alan's
up in
back.
issue 3.
Let's see if that works.
Yes, everything seems to be working now.
There you go.
We just had a pretty bad storm roll through here just a little while ago, so I'm wondering if I just needed to reboot and reset everything right quick. Okay, just in case I do have technical difficulties,
oh, no.
I do have a bone to pick with you about issue 1 right quick, and I need to get to it.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so we have a character that is in the cart that we are assuming as of right now is destined to be unalived once they get to Lumpland.
Yeah.
But then you give me a really cool backstory that I did not want to like about this character and why he's actually in the cart, and I don't want him to die now.
I know. So you can thank James for that.
Well, y'all have put me in a situation that I do not appreciate.
Yeah, that's I'll be honest with you. So when James and I started talking about him writing the backup stories, the backup prose, and I read Arlo's journey. I read his story, and I was pissed. I'm like, wait, what? This guy's awesome.
Like, that's a guy you would play in an RPG, right? I mean, that dude is cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just this little unassuming character that you don't really, okay, you're thinking, okay, they've got a throwaway character in here. It happens in books. But then you get this backstory of why the character has been arrested and what's actually going on. And I was like, no, he's got to help him escape somehow. Arlo needs to get away too.
Yeah. So one of the things I love about this book is just and it's taken forever. So we've had plenty of time to flesh every possible angle out. But James is such a good storyteller. There are no throwaway characters. Every character, even if you only see him for a second on screen, there's history there. There's a story there. They're their own main character. Even you two guys are going to be. I don't know if you can see this or not.
Oh, well, we can in just a second. I'm going to blow you up.
I love it. That's awesome.
Oh, hang on now. You put that in a little closer to zoom in. Let me see this.
There you go. You guys are going in the third issue as Palace Guards.
That's the best comic book that's ever been made, right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, you guys are going into this third issue. But like, here's the thing. Everybody that you see is someone like, there's a wagon cart driver in the first issue. He's not driving the prison cart. He's driving the other one.
Yeah.
And I did a whole character sheet for him. I have a backstory for him. When I first started designing him, I didn't know he was going to die. So I have a history for him. And luckily, so yeah, I told James that whole story and the whole backstory I had for him, and he goes, well, I'm not even going to try and do an English accent. He said, well, we'll just say he has a twin, and that solves that problem.
I can hear it now. No, James, he has kids. He's not dying.
Yeah, right. I've drawn all the kids, James. They all have names.
Little Esmeralda is really going to miss her father.
I know.
This man's got a family, James. No.
I know. But
that's
that's just the level of that's the level of my OCD. It shows up in like every different group of knights has their own insignia. Every different clan has its own like religious doctrine. Like I can't help myself.
See, that's world building though, and even when you don't see all those things, like you don't shine the big spotlight on them and go, "Oh, look at this."
Right.
It gives a level of depth to the world, and it grounds it and makes it feel that much more real. I do a lot of RPGs, right? I play a lot of role-playing games, and I like to build worlds. The world building part is kind of the most fun bit of it to me, because I'm like, okay, if this is what this world is like, what kind of people live there? What kind of animals are there?
Right.
You know, all this kind of stuff. And it makes you challenge some basic assumptions about how things are. But when you have different religions and you have different sects and different factions, and even if they don't ever see that or deal with that, it helps ground your overall picture of the world, and it makes a world of difference. So I 100% applaud that and agree with your OCD.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it seems like most people do. Apart from my insanity, James has done the same thing. Like he has written prose stories. He's written so much about this world that he even has characters that exist 100 years in the past who are doing things that affect the characters that we're experiencing now. So
love it.
Yeah, the world is rich, and then it has a very complicated tapestry that I think really helps when I'm drawing it. Like if I know the characters know each other and I know that their history is together, it makes it easier for me to draw them, if you know what I mean. Like I know how they're going to behave around each other.
Yep.
So it really, I mean, it's just, I think it all comes out in the page in subtle ways of just sort of like this quiet sense of belonging that we're trying to create with the world.
And I think you've done that really well. But before we launch into too much detail, because I'm realizing now we might have people watching who go, "What is this again?" Let's go back in time, and let's tell people what the comic is, kind of what it's about, and why they need to get in on it, and how with this Kickstarter they can get the first issue, which we do still have a couple copies left in the shop, by the way.
Right on.
We got plenty, so we did that on purpose.
Excellent.
But how they can get in on it, and they can get the first issue. They haven't missed anything.
Right.
And so they can get the second issue. It's going to be great.
Yes. So the we're kickstartering the
Kickstuttering. That's where you have to do it more than once, right?
Right. We're doing the Kickstarter for issue 2 right now. So we are very close to getting our goal, which means that people will be getting their issues unless something terrible happens in the next couple of months, or next week or so. So issue 2 takes place immediately after the beginning of issue 1, that cliffhanger where for Peachy and Rhonda, our 2 main characters, are in some trouble. And then both issues are available on the new Kickstarter. So if you didn't catch the first one, you can get them both now. And we have starter packs where you can get both issues and the digital and a bunch of other stuff together, so that you don't have to miss out on any action. And one of the things that's really great about our book that I really love as a fan, especially of James's writing, is like there's the 20 pages of actual story, and then there's a prose section where I do illustrations for James's writing, and then we have this character design section where James talks about the characters and just shows the designs I've done for stuff. Your guys' design will be in issue 3 since you're going to be guards in that issue. And then James also has another section. We were going to do it as a letters column, but we decided or James decided, actually, this was his brainwave, which I think is genius. We're writing it as a newspaper that you would be getting in Lumpland if you lived there. And so it has articles about what's going on in the town at the time, which give you even more background detail on what's happening in the town and what's going on with their main characters. So like, it really is a complete immersion from page 1 to page 48. I think it was, as a fan, I love it. It reminds me of remember those old like Savage Sword of Conan magazines that would have the story and then have some backup story and have some prose and maybe even like that's the bomb when I was a kid. I love those things.
It's because they're awesome.
Yeah.
So plot-wise, we've got 2 different characters who have some physical traits in common, right? Actually, technically, it's 4 characters. You got an older fella and you've got a young boy. One of those sets of characters is in a prison wagon. The other set of characters are on their way to the big city to take over and do highfalutin things with highfalutin people. And then bad things happen at the end of the first issue. Big fight, prison wagon, all these things, right? And what you are led to believe is that the fancy old man and the fancy boy with the special capabilities are dead. And that the 2 in the prison wagon look enough like them that they're like, we could kind of run a con here. We could do this, make some bank and get out. Nobody knows. Right. And that's sort of where the first issue ends, not to spoil anything for anybody, but that's the setup to the entire arc of the book. And that's why it's called Rogue's Kingdom. And the apostrophe is where it is in rogues, because it's plural rogues, for anybody at home who's like, what? It's not just one rogue, it's multiple rogues kingdom. So you have that whole storyline going on. And then you have this storyline going on with this mysterious thief, assassin person who's this all kind of skilled ninja. And then you find out who she is and what's going on there. And there's just kind of that juggling act, that spinning of the plates that keeps you interested, so that every time the arc changes to another point of view, you're like, no, I want to, okay, now I'm hooked on this one.
Well, one of the things that's fun about doing so Peachy and Rondo are the characters we meet first, and they're going to be, I think, the main characters in the first story arc for sure. But the Terror, the Zorro character, the Batman character, is very much, her adventure is very much linked to Peachy and Rondo's adventure, and they are not heroes in the beginning of the story. Peachy is a street urchin with very sticky fingers, and he's and Rondo is a sellsword who gets into a lot of trouble, and they find themselves basically on the way to the gallows. And there other people on their way to Lumpland. They happen to be in the same caravan that a very high-powered wizard and his guardian are in, and they're also on their way to Lumpland. And horrible stuff happens to them, and then Peachy and Rondo decide that if the best thing for them to do to survive is to take their place. And when they do that, they wind up setting in motion all these other events that will get, there's 3 other kingdoms, and we'll get all of those involved. And like their little personal con sets up all kinds of dominoes. And so I do think that by issue 5, all the threads will be pulled together, and then we'll have, I'm so excited about this book because issue 5, the first story arc, is really just the beginning to this incredible journey that James has created that has dragons. It has forest. It has all the kind of things you could think of in Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons. It has huge flying ships. It just has so much stuff going on in it that, even though I've been working on it forever, nobody's even seen a piece of it yet. Just tiniest bit. It's just the tiniest bit of the iceberg. And then there's going to be so much, especially if you like world building, Josh. You're gonna love how far we go with these different kingdoms and the history and all that stuff. But even though that's grandiose, like the thing for me, it's really about these 2 guys who are getting a second chance to be the heroes that they always kind of were supposed to be, but never had the right opportunity for.
Now, with Ard in the first issue, our mage and his bodyguard, it's pretty evident that the mage is not coming back from this flesh wound that he received.
Yeah,
just a flesh wound.
The way it was written, and I know, and I'm asking this is purely speculative, but based on what you said about y'all having backstories and stuff, the way their little relationship was written, the brief time that you see them, and then it had to have been a combination of the writing and the way you drew them, but it seemed almost like his bodyguard was more of a father figure than just the average bodyguard.
Right.
So, I mean, was in y'all's backstories, was that something that y'all elaborated on? And this is just my curiosity now.
That is, we have an entire dynasty of wizards and their guardians to talk about. And one of the things that we don't get to in the first issue, but I think will become clear as the story goes on, is like there are 3 different kingdoms, 2 of which are still mysterious, so I'm not going to name them yet. But there's 3 different kingdoms, and and James talks about this actually in one of the backup stories in issue 2. So they each have a wizard and they each have a guardian, and those are sort of their nuclear deterrents. So that's the power of the wizards kind of keeps all 3 kingdoms in check, and they're able to exist without war. They've been at war for a really long time until they came across this treaty. So there's definitely someone trying to mess that treaty up and then take advantage of the chaos that ensues. So we get into a ton, Alan, there's going to be tons of, there's a whole story where there's like a wizard contest from the different kingdoms, the different schools of magic. And Peachy, who is not really a good magician, has to fake it. And so has to fight these other wizards who know magic, and he has sleight of hand and he's clever. So that's going to be super fun. But I do think you're going to enjoy. Yeah, there's tons of backstory when it comes to. There's, like I said, James and I have everything planned out for the past 100 years and into the future for 100 years. So yeah, there's definitely, you're right. They are more like father and son.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, it was just kind of the way that, as weird as it sounds, as we are talking about the comic book, it was like a combination of the way the bodyguard talked to him and how he was, it seemed like he was drawing him, like leaning over him some, almost like a protective gesture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's just the way that it came across to me.
Oh, I'm glad that came across, because like James and I both really tried to craft that moment, because we don't spend a lot of time with them. Like, that's the tough thing about telling a huge story, is you have to keep moving. And so we really struggled with how, like, which moments do we show here so that we can keep the story moving forward quickly. And I'm glad that came across, because we both really, like, James crafted great dialogue, and I really tried to get the body language to be like, these two characters have been together for a long time, and hopefully the Peachy and Rondo character will start to mirror some of that behavior as they fall into those roles.
Now, I did think it was funny on the very first page. It starts off and you're reading that little like narration across the top about, kind of setting everything up. And in your mind, you're kind of picturing like this grandiose storytelling, like Lord of the Rings type adventure. And then it literally starts off with one character calling the other character a name.
Yeah.
So it kind of just, that one page kind of gave Princess Bride vibes there for a second.
Wow, high praise. Yeah.
That's tippy top.
That's crazy high praise. I just watched that again. That movie's so good.
It's if you were to ask me, if you were to say what's your favorite movie of all time, singular favorite movie, it would have to be that. I mean, it's got everything in it. It's got pirates, it's got adventure, it's got comedy, it's a kissing book. It's got everything you could want. It's a great movie.
Is this a kissing book? It's so good.
It's a great movie.
My favorite line in the whole movie, "Murdered by Pirates" is good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Such a perfect.
It has
film.
shrieking eels. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. The
if you saw me just a second ago. Yes. If you saw me a second ago, like acting weird and suddenly taking a picture out my window, that's because 3 dudes carrying a trampoline just came wandering down my street. I was like,
how big is it?
It was enormous.
That's fantastic. That's somewhat. That's a prelude to a broken leg right there. Someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah, that was just bizarre. It's like things you don't see every day. 3 dudes carrying a trampoline down the street. I mean, I don't know where they were coming from or how far they're going, but that was funny.
I would follow them. If I saw that, I would not be able to help myself. I would have to get out of my chair and go see what they were doing.
I texted my wife so she could do that.
Honestly, I thought you were just taking a picture of the screen to send it to somebody to say, "Hey, look who we're on with."
Well, I've done that already. I already called Posey out. Like, dude, where you at? But I have had the privilege and the opportunity to look at a preview copy of the second issue. Mm-hmm. And I so desperately want to talk about some of the things that happen in there. But I think I can safely
give away some spoilers, right? It's fair, right?
Yeah. I think my favorite bit of the second issue is one of the very first things that happens, which is where Peachy, the kid, is the instigator of this whole thing. It's his idea.
Yeah.
And he's pushing for it, and he's like making the argument for it. And I love that. It's such a great twist. It's not the old guy exploiting the kid, like, "Hey, kid, no, I got an idea. It's okay. We can make."
Right.
It's the kid going like, "What's wrong with you? This is an opportunity that you don't get but once in your life, and here it is." I thought that was brilliant. I loved that.
He is definitely the scoundrel. He is definitely the inciting incident wherever he goes. Yeah.
I pray that that's on my tombstone.
It's a terrible idea, right? It's a terrible idea, but if you'll notice, Rondo doesn't fight it too much, right?
Yeah.
He gives in pretty quick. Yeah.
But I just thought that was great. I loved that he's the one. It was his idea, and he's the one fighting for it. I thought, man, this is. I love this kid.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. So when James and I first started doing this book, we just had sort of like amorphous ideas of the kind of book we wanted to do and the kind of characters we wanted to draw. And then, do you ever remember that movie Paper Moon with Tatum O'Neal?
Oh, yeah.
So that was sort of, that relationship was kind of the impetus at first. So Peachy was a girl in the beginning, and then James came up with the idea of making her a boy, and I thought, oh, that's perfect, because he needs to be less thoughtful than a girl would. He needs to be more of a boy, just having an idea and going with it, because he really does drive. He really drives the story with his 11-year-old arrogance. He's one of my favorite characters to draw of all time. He's like a little juggernaut.
Yeah, he's a little juggernaut. He's a little scamp, is what he is, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I like the way James writes the dialogue, because everybody has a different way of speaking, and you can kind of tell that these are very highborn people. This is hello, Governor. And that comes through really effectively, and I thought that was great.
He's really great at getting subtle distinctions in very few words. It's really impressive. Yeah.
It's what you get with a master storyteller who's been doing this for a long time. He knows exactly how to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. What did you think of the newspaper, the news stories?
I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. This is when one of the things that I do when I'm building a game, an RPG, and I'm building out the world, and the players are in a little town or whatever, there's like a bulletin board where people post stuff. And one of the things they do is they come in and they check it every time they're back in town, right? What's going on now? What's happening? And it's full of stuff like that. And it took a while for this particular group of players, for a couple of them, to get away from this must be super plot relevant. This is going to drive the plot this way. It's just the world. It's just the things that are happening. This guy lost his dog, or this guy, somebody robbed him, and he's trying to get his mother's brooch back, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just the world, and it's the setting. Now they can investigate that all they want because it's all fleshed out. It's there, but it's just to give the world depth and flavor. And so it's one of my favorite things to do, is to populate a place and give the people personalities and jobs, and what do they do and how do they treat each other. Because you were absolutely right when you said it earlier, that gives the whole thing a meaning and a depth that otherwise it's just, people are just plot hooks and elements, right, that you just move around the board, and nobody cares about that. You can be very clever, but you don't care.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I loved most about when I was reading novels as a kid is, especially Lord of the Rings. Let's just say Lord of the Rings is like the easiest one. Like, I know that I would get lost in the songs. I would get lost in the translations from Elvis. I would get lost in the tiniest descriptions of what Tom Bombadil's house was like. I mean, I love that stuff because it really transported me to a different world. And I've always wanted to do that with my own art. And Rogues really gives me a chance to unleash that.
Okay, well, that was the perfect segue, because I want to show this off. And I want to show it off for a couple of reasons. One, because it's one of the first images I saw when you guys were doing the first issue. And I saw this image and I said, oh my God, I have to have this book. But then you had the original art on the Kickstarter. You had a tier where you could get the book and you could get original art. And I was very quick to jump on the bit that I just had to have. And this is now at my house. But this cityscape, I cannot imagine the amount of time you put into it, because this is incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I spent, so that's the cityscape. That's Lumpland, and I've actually got the city divided into sections. Like there's the newer buildings that people live in, and they're nicer for sure. But then there's old pieces of it's basically a port city, say in the Mediterranean, perhaps even in Malta or someplace like that, where you have old Roman aqueducts, and then you have basically like French staired apartments, and then cathedrals, and then fantasy style domes, citadels, and even just little marketplaces where people live. And so I actually have a map of this, and I know how long it takes to get anywhere in the city, down to the port or up to the castle, where the king lives. So I know how many panels I'll need to get anyone anywhere from the city. It seems consistent when you're reading it. That's how crazy I am, Josh.
Brother, you're speaking my language, man. I love all of this. This is so brilliant. And like I said, I jumped on this the minute that this was available. As something, I couldn't believe you're selling it, because if I don't have the skill to draw things, because if I did, I would hoard them like a dragon. But this is so amazing, and it captures so many facets about the book. It tells you where you are. You can see the different elements. You got the triumphal arch over there. You've got the giant domed palaces. You got the little church steeples periodically. You got the boats out there in the harbor.
Right.
Just amazing sense of setting and place. And I cannot believe that I have that in my house.
I'm very glad that it went to someplace who will love it and appreciate it. Yeah. It's yeah, I mean, you can see like this is a labor of love, and it's one of the things that I really like about working on the book is that the world exists for me, and James has created such a rich cast of characters that I know all these people. So I really like spending time there. You know, sometimes you do a gig and it's a job. I've been super lucky with most of the comics in storyboards, animation shows I worked on. But every once in a while, it's just work. But I haven't ever felt that way with Rogues. It's always a joy to transport there.
It's so phenomenal.
Okay, now I do have to ask this, and this is going to be a stupid question for people that have not read the book. And y'all know how I read too much into things sometimes when I'm reading. But
you do sometimes.
Is Rondo truly a great swordsman, or is it a scam? Because after reading that character, there's just one small part of me that went, he's conning everybody.
No, yeah, he is actually one of the best. He really is a great swordsman, and you
don't live that long without being able to hold it. Back up your promises there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if you guys. I'm sure. Yeah, no, it's true. Peachy doesn't know magic. He's going to fake that for a while. Rondo's actually he's really a good swordsman, and he's a remarkably good musician too. So, not necessarily a great guy, but
it sounds like he's made a lot of bad choices, right?
Yes. No, not that he's a guy, but he likes a tankard of ale, let's just say.
And what's not to like? Let's be honest.
I mean, I like a tankard of ale.
So you said a second ago, you mentioned the animated shows and things you worked on. And for any folks who don't know you, this is their first time to meet Jeff Johnson. First of all, where have you been? Dude's been around for doing comics for a long time.
Very long time.
And just awesome stuff. I remember when you did Wonder Man back in the day. I loved Way of the Rat at CrossGen. I've got I think 2 or 3 pages from you from that book. They're up on the wall at my store. I have, if you're ever in the area, I'll have to show you. But up at on the wall at the store, I've got several pages of original art around the walls, and people, other retailers particularly, they get on to me. They're like, how much are you selling those for? I'm like, I'm not. Those are mine. And they're like, well, they're eating up valuable real estate. You should have something on the wall you can sell. And I'm like, well, you do that at your store. At my store, I have things on the wall that I want to look at.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited
that makes sense
about.
To me.
So I've got this, and I got 2 pages of yours from Way of the Rat up there, and I've got a page of yours from, I want to say it was a Fantastic Four annual or an X-Men annual. In any case, it's got the Fantastic Four and fighting Sentinels.
Oh yeah, that's I did a brief run on Fantastic Four before I joined CrossGen. Yeah, that was crazy fun to draw.
You never see the Fantastic Four fighting Sentinels, and I was like, I love this page. Because there's also a TV screen on the page with the news or something is showing, and you've got the same image but kind of tiny on the screen. I was like, and I love that detail. It's just a fun thing.
Oh yeah. That's like I said, I've been super lucky. My time at Marvel was fantastic. I got to draw some crazy cool shit. I got to draw all the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Wonder Man, the Avengers. Yeah, those were good days.
And then you went to CrossGen, which I still mourn the loss of CrossGen. It was a bold idea. It was perhaps a flawed idea from the beginning, but that's okay. It was an interesting idea. I love the concept of give comic book creators a regular paycheck and insurance and all of those things, a regular work week. And a plan for fill-in issues by artists that are up and coming that you're training to do this. It was all very smartly done.
Absolutely.
And I think there was a lot of really good things about it. I think they tried to expand too far too fast and kind of collapsed under their own weight, among other things.
Yeah.
But CrossGen was doing some amazing comics, just so good. And it was across all genres except for superheroes. Although the first,
they did a little bit. The first Barbara Kalber's book and Bart's first book, they were a little superhero-y, but
they were.
But they were more like demigods and stuff like that. So
they were more like Greek pantheon kind of thing. But totally. You had the Way of the Rat, you had the Path, you had Meridian, you had Scion, you had Sojourn. Just so many great things going on. Absolutely freaking loved it.
One of my favorites was Route 666, that horror book.
That was such a fun book.
That was
Carl
such a good book,
right?
Yeah.
That was one I did not expect to like. I was like, this one just doesn't look like my flavor, but CrossGen had built up a lot of equity with me, so I was going to read it and give it a shot, right? And I read it, and I was like, dang, gummit, I like this.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think CrossGen did do a really great job of building different kinds of genres for people to sort of tap into and enjoy a non-superhero experience. Because I don't like when Way of the Rat came out, I'm like, wait a minute, I get to draw a Jackie style old school kung fu adventure. That's something that no one has ever done, right? No one's ever done like a fun book like that. I mean, I'm sure they have, but like I had never had the chance to do it, and it was right up my alley. It was everything that I loved.
The only thing it didn't have that I think you really enjoy, at least I get the sense that you enjoy it from a lot of what you do in your art, was it didn't have any big like Kirby machines. The big Jack Kirby machines with all the complicated stuff going on. Because I know you love that.
I do. You got me. I really do. It's like I can't help myself sometimes. It didn't have any of that, but I did have lots of dragons, and we get those giant stone food dogs. Yeah, and Popo. Yeah, that was great character. That was fun book. Yeah,
loved that book. One of my favorite sketches I got from a convention was a Bart Sear sketch. It was kind of funny. The Atlanta Comic-Con one year, I don't know what was going on, but there was nobody around for hours. And I actually ended up helping Bart and John Smith set up a booth because they were like, they were just trying to do it. They needed help and nobody else was around, so I helped them do it. And then I was talking with them for a bit, and I was telling Bart how I really liked what he was doing with the path, that really stark kind of black and white that he was doing with the heavy inks. And all that kind of thing. I just really, it was a fun departure a little bit, but still very clearly him. I thought it was great. And he drew me a sketch, and he's got this whole sheet of paper to work with, this big 9x12, and this is maybe 3.5 inches from the bottom of the page. That's all he drew on, and it was this little hill. Guy crouched down with his sword in this grassy little hill, and arrows sticking out of the ground.
Oh, awesome.
And I was like, this is a moment, right? This is something cool that's happening. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
And underneath it, he wrote, "This is crap. Bring it back tomorrow and I'll draw you something better."
Oh.
I was like, the heck you will. I'm keeping this.
Yeah, Bart's one of those guys who is, I would say he's a certifiable comic book genius. He's brilliant. I remember, I did an issue of Ruse. That was my first fill-in issue was an issue of Ruse over Butch's, on Butch's book. And I really had a great time doing that.
So much. What an amazing guy.
Yeah. He was a brilliant artist. I miss that guy. Yeah, sad. All right. Anyway, Bart took my first issue that I had done, and he went over it with me. And I'd already been drawing comics for a pretty long time, like for almost a decade. I've been on the Fantastic Four, and I knew what I was doing. Except he took that first issue that I did of Ruse, and we sat in his office for about a half an hour. And he took a red pen and he went over the whole issue, panel by panel, page by page, and showed me what I did right, what I could have done better, and what were good choices and not so good choices. And then at the end of that half an hour, I felt like I'd gone to school for 4 years. I was 10 times the artist I was before I went into that office. Like he just has such a breadth of knowledge. And he's so good at like condensing it down and sharing it with you so that you understand it. That like, and he did that for all of us. Like he was such a great teacher during that time because he just made it look easy. He's so good. Yeah. So I love CrossGen, but I particularly loved how much better I got to be there because I got to work with such fantastic artists. Steve Epting. Jimmy Chung, these guys were just amazing, and they were so good. Just watching them draw was like going to art school.
I tell you, and this is a terrible thing for me to admit, but I've been reading comics since I was a kid, since 1982, and I never paid much attention to the coloring of a book. Right? It never clicked with me. I just took it for granted. It never clicked with me. Of what makes it good or bad or why it works or doesn't work and those kind of things, right? Until I looked at one page, I think it was the very last page maybe, of the first issue of El Cazador, the Spanish pirate ship, right? And it's this pirate ship in the water with the sun going down and shark fins sticking out of the water and all this. And Justin Ponser, Justin was great. Just created magic on that page. That's the first time I flipped back to the front of the book and said, "Who colored this?" Because this is amazing. Yeah, and I've paid attention to the coloring ever since, but it absolutely blew me away. Steve Epting was killing it with the artwork in that book, but Justin Ponser's colors just absolutely destroyed me. That's a page. That's a page of original art that I would probably commit a crime to get. I loved that particular page. That hit so hard for me, setting the place, setting the tone, telling you exactly what kind of book you've got, what's going on, and it was just exquisitely executed. It made me so happy. And whoever owns that, get in touch with me. I'll like to talk to you.
Yeah. I mean, Steve and Justin made an incredible team. I know that Laura Martin was there, and she was fantastic. And my colorist, Chris Garcia, on Way of the Rat, like, I'm very much a line and shape storyteller, right? Like, I don't have much of a color sense. My understanding of color is I understand the color wheel, but it's very pedestrian. And so when Chris and I were trying to figure out how to work together as a team, me trying to pick a color was totally useless and actually often the wrong color. So I would just tell him what I thought was kind of what the emotional context of the scene was. So I would describe what was going on for the characters and the story and feelings and stuff. And so we developed a shorthand where I'd be like, this moment, that moment right before Boone decides to do something he shouldn't do. And Chris would be like, okay. And he would that's how our color language was much more about the feeling of the scene than what the scene was colored at. Yeah. And he was brilliant at that. So no one else could have colored Way of the Rat better than him.
What's the term for that? There's a medical term for that, where you
synesthesia.
Synesthesia. That was it. Where you see flavors.
One more time.
Smell colors.
Synesthesia.
Okay.
Yeah. It's where different
hear
senses
light
compensate.
or taste sound. Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. It's if you want to go into the deep end, it's one of the things that leads to the idea that when we were primates walking along the field, that we ate a bunch of mushrooms, and mushrooms leads to synesthesia, which is one of the things that allows you to try and express more complicated and amorphous thoughts. But that's a conversation for a different day.
I don't know. We like to chase a rabbit down a hole.
That's a deep one.
Say, to me, like, when it comes to the colors and stuff, and I mean, this is just strictly from a fan's point of view. It all comes back down to the lines. It's like the cleaner the lines are, and this is just to me personally, the more it makes the colors pop.
I agree with that. That's my personal feeling on it too. Yeah.
Actually, two people that come to mind when I say that is Stephen Butler and Brett Booth.
Yeah, that's fair.
And maybe it's just their art style. I don't know.
Now, see, this particular picture is a great example of that, right? I've seen two different versions of this. One where it's kind of that sunset, and then I've seen a version where that's nighttime and that's the moon.
Yeah,
and it's the same picture, but two totally different color palettes to tell two totally different stories.
Yeah, and see, to me, and no offense to colorists, I love this the way that it is, black and white. I don't want to see color with that.
Is it because you can see all the little little buildings and stuff? Do you like the
That's why I like it.
Yes, and as weird as it sounds, that entire scene right there with what you've given me is now up to my imagination. It's night, it's day, it's sunset, it's sunrise. I mean, it can be anything that I want it to be. So yeah, that's why I like black work so much.
Yeah, you talk about being able to really differentiate or distinguish all the different lines and everything once you get down to that level of detail. And with the colors, you do lose some of that because now things are close together and so they don't stand out. But yeah, when you've got all those kind of lines, I look at something like that and I think, man, Jeff Darrow would be proud of that. That's a million lines, because that dude loves to put ink on a page.
Yeah, his stuff is ridiculous. I have been studying his work forever. I mean, since he did all those cool things with Mobius way back in the day.
Yes.
A magnifying glass is what you need to really appreciate a Jeff Darrow piece. Like, oh look, that's a candy bar wrapper. And the crinkle, like the logo is on it and everything, even though it's squished. Yeah, that's a level of skill that even I'm in awe of.
But I see something like that, and I see that kind of brain at work, and I see that the depth of all of the things that go into it, and I love it. It makes me happy deep down in my soul.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I try. I mean, I'm working on a library right now in issue 3. And in this library, I wanted to have it's the magical library. So it has all the things you would hope a magical library has. But I keep getting lost in adding stuff. I'm like, oh, there has to be this. I mean, there's got to be one of these hanging from the ceiling. It's like, oh, well, it's not a real magic library if it doesn't have this on the wall. So it's I keep going back and adding stuff to it.
They don't have a ladder to go around and go up to the books. They have a little carpet.
There's definitely spiral staircases everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
What about like the individual books themselves? Have you gone to that level yet? Are you is your OCD kicking in for that?
I do tend to there's yes, sadly. So I mean, it's like I feel seen by that question in a very uncomfortable way. But yeah, so the different.
I am the Barbara Walters of the comic book world.
Right. Thank you for knowing me. The different. There's different portfolios that are longer, and those are more like pictures. And then there's bigger books that are more tomes of spells and whatnot, older leather bound and paper in dog-eared and whatnot. Yes, if you look at the shelves, you will get a sense of who's been reading what recently.
Okay,
I love it.
I cannot wait now because I like those types of details.
Yeah,
I had a library in a game that I was running one time. I'm going to give away some secrets here. I had a library in a game that I was running, and my players know me, and they know that I'm going to have something for everything, right? They know that, and they would never leave that library. They would have been in that library the rest of the game. And I knew it. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I can't populate these shelves at all because they're going to never leave.
Right. The minute they pick one book off, they're going to be like, oh, this section is all about dragons. We're going to stay here and learn everything we can about dragons.
Yeah, but it hurts my soul not to have something in there, right? So I had to come up with a reason why there was nothing there. The books were on the shelf, but every page was blank.
Smart.
And the reason why, I had to do this. They also found the body of this woman in there, and the body of her baby, where she had like stabbed her baby. It was horrible. But they noticed there's no blood, right? And there was a spell that was a cleaning spell that was designed to I'm coming into town, I'm covered in dirt, I can do this spell, and poof, now I look like my clothes came out of the washing machine, right? But somebody had tried this spell and they had goofed it, and it just erased everything.
Oh, that's a great solution.
In this entire
really great
place.
Solution.
So the blood was gone, the ink on the pages was gone, everything was gone. And that was the only way. It hurt me to do it because I wanted everything to be in those books, but it hurt me to do it because I knew they would never leave.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm in a campaign now where we're wandering, and so some of the dungeon that we're in has been picked clean, and some of it hasn't. But none of us will leave a room until we scour it for every possible thing, even though it's clearly been picked clean. So yeah, it's hard to give up. Yeah.
But I knew they would never, ever leave that room, and we would be 4 years later still in that room. So I had to make it so there was nothing there at all to be found, except this horrible scene, which they found. And then they were like, oh.
Yes, let's go. That's good DMing right there.
Well, then they were paranoid. And to this day, I think they're still paranoid, even though we haven't played that game in, 6 years, about that particular spell. They're like, that spell is wrong. That's bad. It's terrible.
Yeah, you don't want to accidentally erase your own book spells, right? You don't want to erase your own stuff. Yeah,
it would be bad.
That would be bad news. Yeah,
it was fun.
Do you play D&D too? Are you a player?
So every once in a while, when I have time, the last game I actually played was just a couple of weeks ago, and that was Old Gods of Appalachia. I had been dying to play that for a long time.
Are you familiar with that one, Jeff?
I'm not. No, that's new to me.
Oh, it's so it's a podcast that you can listen to on Spotify, and it is basically the nutshell version is it is like an alternate history of Appalachia, and you literally throughout the mountain range you have they call it the green, and it's full of spirits and literally the old gods. It's almost like a prison.
Cool.
But they can still roam. Well, this company was like, hey, this would be a great idea for an RPG. Well, the guy who actually started the podcast, he come back and basically said, you're right, it's a great idea for an RPG, but it's only going to be an RPG if I work on it also.
Right.
And even if you never play it, just buying the handbook is worth it because the art and everything that they have in it is beautiful.
Excellent.
Yeah, it is. And it's very moody and atmospheric in a way I think you would like, Jeff.
Yeah. There are a couple of episodes of that podcast that I think they're on like episode 80, something like that now. But there's a couple of episodes of that podcast that when you get done listening to it, you're like, all right, let's go watch a Disney movie. I got to get that out of my head.
Yeah.
Checking under the bed before you go to sleep at night.
It's nothing for like shock value or gory. Yeah. It's literally just the tone and the suspense that they set with it. And then it's like they do a really good job of leading you up to a point where you're like, oh my God, it's about to happen. And then it breaks. And then when you come back to that thing that you were expecting to happen, it's already happened. And you're now dealing with the aftermath. So it really lets you use your imagination on top of that.
Cool.
So yeah, that's Old Gods of Appalachia. There's a Kickstarter for a game right now by Rick Hershey. I don't know if you know Rick Hershey or know who he is, but he's a fantastic artist. He has this knack for making like characters look like their clothes and everything, like they look lived in. They look excellent. Real. And he particularly loves kind of early American aesthetics, right? So he's got these things, several games actually that kind of play in that area, but he's got one right now that is in Kickstarter. I think it's on BackerKit or whatever it is. It's called Come All Ye Sinners.
Okay.
And it's in a similar vein to Old Gods of Appalachia, but it's like, what if it was the entire country and not just Appalachia, right? So it's set during the not Prohibition, after that, whenever the Depression. It's set during the Depression.
Okay.
Kind of a thing, but it's got old stuff in it, right? It's got old, depending on what part of the country you're in, it's got like puritanical ghosts and revenants and all kinds of things, and it's got a lot of folk magic in it. He grew up with a family that, like, you hang a horseshoe over the door.
Oh,
that's what you do. You better, right?
Right. Otherwise, the luck will run out.
And I kind of grew up similarly. My grandmother was doing home remedies all the time, right? You burned your hand, you better do this, and you go outside at night and throw salt over your shoulder and stuff like that. And you're like, what? But it's these kind of old-timey home remedies, and he's got stuff like that, and he kind of has that same level of depth that you like, that I like, that builds into the world. And he's a fantastic artist. So if you want to look that one up, it's called Come All Ye Sinners, and it is a great looking game. I'm excited for it.
I have to check that one out too. Oh, Jeff, I just dropped you a link to Old God's website in the private chat.
Oh, right on. Cool. Oh, I see that. Excellent.
We're all just nerding out together. But one thing we haven't gotten to.
I love this stuff.
Well, I do too, man. This is great. One thing we haven't gotten to yet is you were out of comics for a little while because you were working on animated movies for DC.
I was out of comics for about 10 years, maybe a little bit longer. So I got out of CrossGen, ended in 2003, I think. And then I moved back to LA.
It was after
really
2003, had to be.
Yeah, I started in
2006.
I mean, I got there, I think I got there 2001, 2002, so I got 2004. I was only there for a couple of years. I'll have to look that up. My memory is not so good about, my memory's never been good about dates. I can't forget, I forget the numbers. And then as much as I love doing comics, it was real hard for me to go back to just sitting by myself in my own little studio. Because I mean, I got a taste for it. I loved CrossGen. I loved hanging out with other artists and being in a studio with other creative people and really, you know, working together to make a thing happen. I think I did a lot better there than I do when I'm just sitting by myself. And so when I got to LA, I got a chance to jump on to Justice League Unlimited as a background guy. And so I took it and then really liked working in animation. I did backgrounds on Justice League Unlimited. And then I did character designs.
About that.
Sure.
So you saying that in Justice League Unlimited, I mean, you telling me you worked on backgrounds and this literally just popped in my head. In the one episode where the Flash is basically running around the world, and he's hitting Luthor to strip him of the suit. You see him hitting all the different landscapes, Egypt, London, all that stuff. Was that yours or did what?
No, that one wasn't mine. Do you remember the one where they go into the center Earth of Skartaris in the Warlord world?
Yeah.
And they come out, and they look up, and it's the inside of the Earth.
Yeah.
That one's me. I did that one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that one was so hard because it was inverted perspective. It was like inside the Earth perspective. I actually drew lines like in a bowl and used it because this is before computers. This is, you know, we didn't have SketchUp or any of that stuff to do all those designs by hand. Actually used a bowl to make sure I got my grid right, and then before I drew all the continents and the sun in the middle and all that stuff. Yeah.
Now, completely and totally stupid question coming from a non-artist. When you draw something like that, are you literally just sitting there with the piece of paper on your sketchboard tacked down, or are you like spinning the piece of paper upside down? And because that's actually, I mean, I know what you're talking about, and that's a very, I mean, pain in the ass looking thing to draw. Like really,
yeah. Yeah, I you know, you do whatever you got to do to get the drawing done. I just didn't draw off, and like I'll spin my artboard around quite a bit, but like a lot of times I will sketch it on, like if it winds up being too big for the paper. Nowadays you're on the computer, so you just shrink stuff down. But back in the day, like drawing something and you go off the paper, I would just tape another piece of paper to it. So like I would have these Frankenstein drawings that I would have to like work to get into a single piece. But yeah, it's fun. I like the challenge of doing back like that. That was a really fun job. And then it wasn't easier than comics, just much more specific. Like when you're drawing a comic book page, you have to do everything. And when you're doing animation, you really only have to focus on one thing and get that one thing right. Like if you're drawing characters and you just draw that one guy standing there and you make sure that everything is perfect when you turn them around. Or if you're doing props, like I have a friend who draws all the he's drawn all the Batmobiles for the animated stuff for decades. And so he is amazing at cars and vehicles, and that's all he has to think about. He really gets to focus on that one thing, and he's the best at it. So I think animation was really great because I got to focus on just doing backgrounds for a couple years, and then I got to focus on just drawing characters and animals and things. Like I did a I did the character design. Did a ton of character designs for Apocalypse, which was Supergirl, Dark Side Superman video, and then I got to draw all the weird animals that are in Superman's zoo in his Fortress of Solitude. Which I mean, you don't get to do you don't get to spend time doing that when you're drawing a comic, unless you're drawing your own comic like Way of the Rat, and then you take 10 years to do it. So that's the downside of doing animation, is you get spoiled for having all this information and not just doing it on the fly like Kirby or any of the other old classic guys who would just design the coolest stuff on the page and never even think about it.
Just so you know, Jeff, one of my players is watching, and she had this to say.
Yes, that would be bad.
Well, that's a particular poke because this game that we're playing right now is in a homebrew world of mine, right? And it's that classic case of they don't know this world, and it's totally different. The races, the people, the geology, things that work. It's all out of my head, right? It's nothing. That's no tie to D&D, no nothing. So their characters would know things that the players have no idea about whatsoever, and couldn't realistically play very well in the world because of that, right? So I started the game with they don't know any of their past at all.
Oh, that's a smart solution.
And we built in a deja vu mechanic so that if they see something that triggers their mind, that they can be like, wait a minute.
Do I remember this?
Right. They may have a flashback of something that didn't quite get erased.
Right.
Something like that. So, yeah, so she's taking a particular poke at me over that. But, yeah, with good reason. Sure.
That would be tough to keep rolling a memory check. Do I know this? Can I speak this language?
It would take away from the RP, right? From playing the game. You'd constantly be checking stats and trying to roll stuff out. So I'm not sure that it's been a complete success. They could tell me whether it's doing all right or not, but it's been poignant in the game, and it's been fun because I'm able to introduce them to characters who seem to know them, and they're like, do I trust this person? Do I not trust this person? One of the players is just like a completely paranoid freak who don't trust anybody. And they're like, we grew up together. And he's like, sure.
Yeah. Tell me another one.
I can see where that will be simultaneously fun and nerve-wracking.
Right.
Yeah. It is, but that was super fun. We've enjoyed that. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that. Yeah, she heard that story and she's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're doing.
That's excellent.
You got me.
I see your save, Arlo. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was going to circle back to Arlo. You kind of jumped the gun. I was going to be like, okay, wait a minute. Before we get done tonight, we got to circle back. Where do we stand on Arlo's future?
Well, he's dead.
He's dead, Jim.
Well, I mean, it's comic book. Does anybody truly die in comic books?
Here's the thing. I never show his body.
That's true.
And I picked up on that. That's why I'm asking.
I don't show his body because I'm not going to lie. In my mind, he got away. In my mind, he got away. But I don't know if that's canon. James and I haven't talked about it.
I mean, look, I'm all for getting James on here and we hashing this out right now.
Right. Yeah, you know what it reminds me of is like Ridley Scott said that he thought Decker was a replicant, and Harrison Ford did not think Decker was a replicant, and so they just approached the character that way. And so I think maybe we can have a Decker situation with Arlo. I think he's alive. Maybe he's dead. We won't know until he shows up, in 10 years and having an entire history of his own.
Here's where you have one up on James Robinson, okay? He's not going to know who you're putting in the backgrounds.
You know what? That's a great idea.
You have Arlo just show up, and then you can go back with a flashback episode and show how he's been pivotal to the whole story the whole time.
Yeah.
That makes
me very happy.
I mean, as of right now, Arlo is my Schrodinger's cat.
Yes.
I mean, we just don't know.
Is that Arlo? Like, so now we're gonna have Arlo sightings. Is that him? Is he in that cat? Is he in that?
You know what?
Cafe?
Instead of Where's Waldo, it's Where's
what I was
Arlo.
about to say. Instead of Where's Waldo.
Yeah. That's perfect.
I love he's writing it down. He's like, aha.
Now, wait a minute. That actually leads me to another stupid question.
Sure.
Have you ever done that in comics? You know, have you ever
snuck
in a character that you were not supposed to sneak in? Like in the background somewhere?
Well, so when I used to, before I moved to Florida to do CrossGen, I had a studio in the Bay Area called Work in Progress Studios that I shared with other comic book friends of mine, Chris Shank, Steve Jones, Scott Collins, who you'll know, Brandon, who worked on LS and Ton Comics and is an amazing storyboard director right now, done a ton on Harley Quinn. And he's been like, so great comic book artist. But back in the day, when I needed reference, I would just take a Polaroid of these guys. And so if you look through any of the books I worked on since Wonder Man, basically there are those guys. Dan Panosian is like, you'll see them in the background throughout all the books. They show up.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
so
it.
you can see. You can see Steve and Dan. You can see them sitting in bars and driving cars and doing stuff throughout my whole career. They're all in there. Yeah.
I love it. Speaking of Dan Panosian, did you read his book that he did at AWA a year or two ago called Black Tape?
Oh, yeah, great book.
God, that was
I
so
love
good.
Black Tape.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of his writing. Alice Ever After is amazing. I love Slots. I thought Slots should be a movie for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Should. Well, Daniel Major, are you still on? Because if so, I want to show you something, but I can't do it. Jeff has to do it. Can you show that page that you held up earlier?
Oh, you guys?
Yeah,
Yes.
Daniel, look at this, bud. See if you recognize those people.
I mean, if we're not in the magical library.
You guys will be outside the magical library standing guard.
Yes. That is fantastic. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You got your face, like your attitude down pat, Alan.
I know, but I'm kind of thinking he was watching Robin Hood when he was drawing you, because you're giving me Friar Tuck vibes.
Hey, I'm like a combo of Friar Tuck and Little John.
That's a good combo. Yeah, as soon as I'm done with this, I'll send it to you guys. You can have the drawing. Yeah.
I don't think that won't get framed and put on the wall at the store, because it absolutely will. We'll have like a whole Jeff Johnson collection up on the wall.
I love that. That makes me happy.
Chris, that's actually going in issue 3 of his book that he's doing right now. So yes, there will be multiple copies, and Josh will be more than. I mean, this is not the first time Josh has posed for a comic book panel.
God dang it!
Is this?
I hate you so much, Alan.
Is this not a good story, or is this a great
it's
story?
Not a
true
story,
like
but it's one that Alan is trying to make true.
The sad thing about it is it's kind of taken on its own life, and just to be honest with you, it was me being a smartass on the show one night.
Okay.
And Mark Spears, who does Mark Spears Monsters.
Have you seen that book?
He's a local guy, and I mean, he's having a ton of success with this book. Well, so Mark had actually sent us the PDFs of this book almost a year before it come out, and we were kind of reading it and checking everything out for him, and just basically critiquing it for him. Well, there's one panel where the detective, who is heavy set,
and let me be clear, when he sent the document to us, the thumbnail photo that it picked out of this entire comic book was this panel he's about to describe.
But it is literally the detective who's heavy set. He's in his tidy whities, and all you see is him from behind, standing in front of his bathroom sink. He's getting ready to go to this crime scene. So my smart mouth starts proclaiming that basically Mark drew Josh like one of his pretty French girls, and Josh posed for this scene. And I have been perpetrating this lie to the point where I think I'm actually getting people to believe
you 100% are
that Josh posed in his tidy whities for Mark.
Well, I mean, I don't have anything that bad, but I do have friends wearing towels around their neck as capes, and one friend holding it while another one is pretending to fly. Those are pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, that's legit though.
Yeah,
but I tell you, if you get a document from somebody, and the thumbnail image is of some fat dude, and it's really photorealistic stuff too, right? So it's some fat dude standing around in his tidy whities in front of the bathroom mirror. I'm like, I don't think I want to open this.
I mean, it's a niche book for sure.
I don't think I want to open this. But I tell you, it's a book. Just as far as books go, Mark Spears, he used to own a comic book store here in town, so I've known him a long time. Great guy. He's been doing the thing where he's doing the trading cards for Marvel and all that kind of stuff, right? Right. So it's just it's a tough life, right? So he's worked for 30 years to become an overnight success.
That's how the game goes.
That's right. His first issue of his book had orders for 11,000 copies, just under 11,000 copies.
That's great.
The second issue was 24,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
The third issue was 46,000. The fourth issue was 76,000.
Who's his distributor? Who's he going through?
A tiny little company called Keen Spot that nobody ever heard of before. They've been around forever, but they've never done much.
That's great. Those are numbers.
It's amazing, and it doesn't happen, right? Books don't start with a number one and then get more issues for number two and more readers for number three.
Not usually.
It just doesn't happen. So he's been enjoying this tremendous success, and he has worked hard for every bit of it, and he deserves it all. But yeah, that first panel, it's the first thing you see when you open the book. You're like, oh my God.
I actually just jumped on his Instagram page to see if he has a picture of that panel, just so we can show you what we're talking about. But it's bad.
I can imagine.
He's got a good imagination. He's an artist. He can picture it.
Right.
But then you got to put up with me running around. And see, the best thing about it is, to this day, Mark has never denied that Josh was the model. If you go back and watch any episode that Mark has been on, or us joking around and everything at the shop, he has never denied that Josh was the model.
He just
Remember
laughs.
that Daniel Major and Matt Posey? Remember that?
That's true. He just laughs.
Well, now we can't deny it.
Right. It's been built up into too big of a thing.
Yeah, it's become part of the lore of that book.
Yeah. That's the backstory on that character is something. Yeah. That's fun. But yeah, so you did all this animation stuff working for a long time, and I'll tell you, we have a lot of fans of DC animated movies and cartoons.
I was so happy to work on those. I was so it was such a sweet spot, and I got lucky to be in there. As much as I love comics and I love the DC universe, and I have to say that many of the animated DC movies that were straight to video, I think, are some of the best comic book movies made.
100%.
Yeah,
Mask of the Phantasm to this day is the best Batman movie.
I just watched that again last night. It's brilliant.
I'll fight you. Good. It's so good.
Yeah. It's real good. And then Apocalypse is great. There's some fight scenes that are really great. Bad Blood is great. Batman Family. All this stuff. And they all kind of, it's a coherent universe too. They do some Elseworlds type stuff, but they do continuity really, really well. I love Damien in these books or in these movies. And drawing them was a joy. It was I really felt like I was part of something special while we were working on those.
And I would argue that you were. Because they're amazing. We have argued many times on here that if DC, and maybe they're finally doing it with Superman. One of our viewers was late to the show tonight because he was watching Superman. We don't get to go and see it till tomorrow, so I'm super pumped for that. But until now, they've had some decent movies. So I thought Wonder Woman was a really good movie. But they haven't. Their live action movies have not had the same cohesiveness, the same gravitas, the same effectiveness as their animated movies. Yeah. And Marvel, there for a long time, was kind of the opposite, right? Their live action movies were really good, but their animated movies were just mediocre. They were okay. Yeah. The DC was killing it, and their animated folks were absolutely killing it because they're spectacular movies in their own right, cartoon or not. They're great movies.
Yeah, I think it was a Justice League versus Teen Titans. That was an intense movie.
That's a great one. My favorite is the Batman one, Doomed.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, and that one's a really good one. I mean, they're all. I mean, having a smaller crew, I think, and trying to be closer to the comics. Like I did, Public Enemies, that was based on I think it was the Mike Turner comics, but like that was a really fun one. I just really think that everyone who worked on those movies had a love of the genre and the material, and I think it really came out. Not that people who work on the live action ones don't. I just think that a smaller crew is easier to keep that kind of attachment to the material. It's harder when I think there's more people involved.
Now, well, I think they were getting less pressure from the top because the big live action movies are supposed to be these big popcorn movies, these blockbusters, and they're expected to do hundreds of bazillions of dollars, right? The animated films have a different expectation, and so the big wigs keep their fingers out of the pie, essentially, right? At least to the same extent. So they're actually able to do what they should do, which is focus on telling great stories in a great way. It seems from my outside perspective that's probably something to do with it anyway.
I mean, I would definitely agree with you. I just definitely think that there is, there's less eyes on, there's less cooks in the kitchen, and so you can make, I think you can make a tastier pie, to use a horrible analogy. Terrible.
Well, see, we've argued before here recently. I grew up. I was a Marvel guy through and through, and I liked Batman. And there's a lot of Marvel guys who like Batman, right? And I would pick up some DC books periodically, other than that. And I liked a lot of them okay, but I didn't just love them. And I couldn't have articulated why. It was like, why does this speak to me and this doesn't? But that's how it was for the longest time. The past 3 years now, 2-3 years at this point, the pendulum has really gone the other direction. And I guess 2.5 years ago, DC's editorial seemed like they got their idea, they got their stuff together. They said, here's what we're going to do. We have this vision. We're going to execute. We're not going to try and just throw books at the shelf to populate the shelf so you feel like you have to buy our stuff instead of somebody else's. We're going to focus on good, solid storytelling.
Right.
And they did. And holy smokes, has it been effective, and it's worked. But a handful of books at Marvel seem to have been in that same not so many overlords, like observing and monitoring what you're doing kind of thing. And those books are excellent. Like Jed MacKay on Moon Knight. Oh my God, Moon Knight right now, and has been since he started. Phenomenal book.
Oh, excellent. And I haven't picked it up. I haven't been to a comic store in a long time.
Well, I think Marvel's editorial is more focused on other things, on continuing to keep Spider-Man terrible instead of the flagship book that it should be. I'm not bitter. But they've left Moon Knight alone. They're letting Jed MacKay do what he wants. And it's amazing. It's so good. He has done so many wackadoo things. You're like, that shouldn't work. Oh, my God, that's incredible. If you like Moon Knight at all, I think you would love Jed MacKay's run.
I do. I'll go check that out. I mean, letting the artist and the writers just do their job is why we have the version of Daredevil that we have, or the X-Men that we have. Like back in the 80s, or the X-Men even, when some of these books were about to be canceled and they let artists and writers just come up with the coolest stuff they could think of. I really think that was kind of a golden era. And then the 90s, we definitely had too many like pouches and buckles and stuff. But I thought that we did some fun comics that we were mostly, once again, I mean, when I worked on Wonder Man, I was left alone for the most part. I'd get the script, and then I remember when I did the Sideways issue, which would have probably been a ton of meetings now. I just asked Fabian if I could do it, and he said, sure. And that was the end of that conversation.
Sure.
I said, yeah, I have a cool idea. I think this book should be a Sideways book because I've always wanted to do one. And he's like, yeah, that idea makes sense. Yeah, for it. And that was it. And then I did it, and that was
That sounds like Fabian. I love it.
You talking about the Sideways book? There was an issue of Nightwing that came out maybe a year ago, and it had no panels to it. You could literally tear the pages out and line them up on a wall, and it was just one continuous piece of art
for 22 solid pages. Yeah, Bruno Redondo killed it.
So is it just following him like Family Circus style through stuff?
Yeah.
Really, the entire book.
Kind of like old school Ron Friends when he would draw the multiple Spider-Man, in
brilliant.
Different. You remember how he would do that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, similar to that. And I think you had to have 2, maybe 3 actual comics if you were to take it apart because the way it's printed, right? Because you have to turn the pages and such. But you could put it together, and one comic book store did, and they taped it up on the wall as one massive continuous panel. It was brilliant. Bruno Redondo
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Killed
it
with
amazing.
Now, as an artist, how difficult is something like that to do? Because to me, you would think that the panels kind of help the artist some.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's whenever I've tried to do something like that, I try and tell, where I try and extend out the action. Because basically every time you cut in a panel, it's cutting, as opposed to so that's a whole tracking shot where it's just one shot. That takes incredible planning, and it takes a lot of foresight in trying to figure out where your moments are going to be on the page. I'm amazed that he was able to do it. It's like having a movie with no cuts.
Right. And people laud it. You do one scene like that, people are like, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
You do an entire comic book like that? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
He did another issue of, was it 107 maybe? Somewhere in that ballpark of Nightwing, where he did one where the entire book is from Nightwing's perspective. So you never see Nightwing unless
where you see from his eyes that putting on the mask. Yeah.
Yeah. So you only ever see anything in the entire book from his perspective. You don't ever see him unless it's in a reflection or something.
Brilliant.
You see his arm, or his hand or whatever, but everything was from his eyeballs, and it was great.
That's commitment. That's really impressive. When I was working on Transformers Prime, it was a CG show. Yeah. So the game we used to play is how long can you be just moving the camera around and changing perspective and do your storytelling, but never actually cut away from the camera. That was that was always the challenge, because the longer you can stay in a shot, the more emotional context, you are as a viewer, you are dragged along and you feel as though you're participating more. So I was never able to do it that long, but some guy could do it for scene, for their whole section. And it's an interesting challenge. And so if someone could do that in a comic book, genius.
Yeah, it really was impressive. And the average person who picked up that book would never know that that's what happened.
Oh, right.
Or that's how it went. They advertised it a little bit to comic book stores mostly, but nobody went out of their way and said, check this out, this is amazing. But it absolutely worked. It was brilliant.
Now we had one, I cannot remember who said this, who told us this, Josh, about in the panels,
Howard
when you're an
Chaykin.
artist, you also have to look at the story that you tell in between the panels that the reader does not see.
Yeah.
And in that issue of Nightwing, there was no in between the panels. I mean, it was just, you actually had to flip through that book probably 3 or 4 times to actually see everything.
Wow.
You want to know who told us that? And this is particularly hilarious. That was Jeff Johnson.
Did I say that?
Did you say that?
You did. You talked about the time lapse between panels and how sometimes it's a long time and sometimes it's a really short time, but you have to lead the reader to see what happens between the panels. And that was a fascinating thing to think about. You're like, because I've been reading comics for 42 years. It never occurred to me to think about it that way. But the minute you said it, I could absolutely see where good storytellers make you see something that's not there. The thing they didn't draw. And you see it. I've got a sketch. It's that same sketch that he does for everybody of Green Arrow by Mike Grell. That little con sketch, just profile view. And he draws the nose up here, and then he draws the tip of the nose down, and that's it. He doesn't draw the rest of the nose.
He doesn't do the full line. He just lets you fill in the blank. Yeah.
And I'm like, how does that work? Because I'm looking at this, and that shouldn't work. You didn't draw it. It's not there, but my brain says it's perfect.
Yeah, but it's the magic of comics, actually. It's one of the things I love most about storytelling of comics is because it's a conversation between the reader and the artist and the writer that I don't think happens in any other medium, because that gutter, that space in between the panels, we leave that up to the reader to fill in. And if you do it right, if you're really clicking and there's that sort of like magical relationship, right? You will see the thing. Everyone who reads it will see sort of the same thing in between, just because it's like, if I say here's A and here's C, and in the space is just blank, that's B. So you fill it in. And so it's that thing that you do. If I'm doing my job right, the in-between panels will have as much information in them as the actual panels. So that's always the thing I'm trying to achieve, is that seamless relationship between what's there and what's not there, and what you see in your mind is what we all want to see the same thing in our mind when we're reading a comic. Like, I've described panels to friends of mine, and we've talked about panels in old comic books, like old X-Men comics, that aren't actually, like, we've talked about these panels. They're not actually in the comic, but we just all imagine the same in-between panel. So I think it's amazing to me that the blank space that we can do that with our brains. I think that's one of the great things about comics.
The question I thought, or the comment I thought you were about to pull on, Alan, was we had Howard Chaykin came on the show, and before that show we had a nice PG-13 rated show. He blew that out of the water in the first minute and a half.
Yeah, well, Howard is colorful.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
But
he's also a genius when it comes to comic book storytelling. He knows more about
Yes. And that's exactly where I was going, because I had talked to Ron Friends and Tom DeFalco at the expo. They were here at our local show, and I told them that I was having Howard was going to come on this show, and they were like, "That's awesome. If you can survive the initial onslaught, it'll be great." So I was prepared. But one of the things he talked about that really caught me was he was kind of mad about it, and I get it. He said, within the medium of comic books, every page has limitless possibilities from an artistic perspective, right? The layout of panels whether you use panels, whether you break panel walls, how close the panels are together, how big
Right.
are they, what shape are they. All of those things you can use to tell a story in a unique way that you can only do in comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And people just draw splash pages and the same 4 panels or the same 5 panels. They're rectangles and squares. And it made him mad. He was like, this is ridiculous. What is wrong with these people? You have all of this realm to play in, and you choose to stay on this one street.
Yeah. It's the blank page is a wonderful playground, and it can be a nightmare too, because you have so many options when you start to draw a page. Sometimes it's very difficult to narrow it down to like, these are the right 6 choices to tell this story. You should, like, if you have Howard on again, like, he is a brilliant storyteller and a scholar, and a historian when it comes to comics. He has, I must have listened to him talk about just the nature and the benefit of inset panel for hours. So like, there's just, why would he put a panel in this? Like, it's the way the mind works and the way inset panels work. Like, just that one small piece, he could give lectures and lectures on. So yeah, it's a long craft to learn.
It really is.
Get obsessive about it, yeah.
And then you look at guys who are good at it, guys who just, whether it's instinctive or whether it's been beat into them over time, the guys who are really good at it, and you look at what they do and the way that they tell a story and what makes that work versus somebody who tried to tell a similar story but didn't pull it off the same way, right?
Mm.
And you look at it, and the differences can be so minute as to what makes it really click versus what makes it just not click at all.
Right.
But it's one of the reasons I love comic books. It's such an incredible medium. We were just actually interviewed for one of our local news stations because I would say humble brag, but I'm not being humble at all. Someone nominated us for the best craft/hobby store in the state of Alabama. Don't know who did it. But then people voted, and we were voted the #1 craft and hobby store in the state of Alabama, which is bizarre, but I'm super proud of it because it's nominated by people in the community. It's not like I threw my hat in the ring or anything. And that's how it turned out. But I look at comics and I think this is so great. And they asked me a question at this interview. They said, what makes comic books? Why are people drawn to comic books? What's the allure of comic books, right? And I hadn't quite thought of it in those terms before, but I had to think, if you go back in time, we tell stories. We as humans tell stories. It's what we do. And you go back far enough, they were telling stories in caves, and they were drawing pictures on the walls in caves because telling stories was important, and they conveyed information. And comics are a medium for telling stories. It's one of the ways we can do it. And we have an unlimited special effects budget in comics.
Yeah.
You can blow up as many things as you want. It doesn't cost you a penny more.
Yeah, I love, one of the favorite things I draw in a comic, and I've only been able to do it a few times, but I always lean into it, is like, I've blown up planets a bunch of times. The best. I mean, there's nothing better than blowing up, like having a sun go supernova and having a bunch of planets explode. It's so good. It's so much fun.
It has to be satisfying, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, it's the best.
This is super cathartic. What'd you do today? Yeah. I blew up an entire solar system.
Yeah, I just destroyed everything. It was fantastic.
I pity non-artists who can't do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a way to tell stories, and it's a way that we can communicate things to people in a unique way. And I love that about comics. I think comics are wildly underrated by people as a storytelling mechanism. I really do.
Yeah. I do think that we're having a bit of a renaissance at the moment, in like how many people are drawing comics now. It's a much broader field, and there are a lot more voices I think out there right now. There's a lot more unique vision. I think it's probably more difficult to make a living at comics than it used to be.
I would think, yeah.
But I do think that there's just so much great material out there right now between like all the smaller companies and what people are just putting out online. And I do think that the fan base is it's like broader now than it ever used to be. There's more women and kids and older people. And I do think that that I think as a reader now is a pretty sweet time because there's so much possibility out there. And as a creator too, because you can do basically anything you want, anything that means something to you, you can put it on paper and you can find your audience. But I do think like you run a store, like how you pick what goes on the shelves. It must be incredibly difficult.
Well, it's getting more difficult now that Diamond is gone.
Ooh, yeah. That was
gone.
Bad.
And with Diamond being gone, things that you don't think about, like there's no previews catalog anymore.
Right.
So where's the information come from about what's coming out?
Right.
Most of my people are not. And the nice thing about a catalog is it tells you all in one place. You don't have to go online and look, right? You don't have to hunt and find. It's like I can find any book I want on Amazon. But if I'm walking through Barnes and Noble and I'm looking at the shelves, that book might jump off that looks interesting. I need to read that. What's that blurb? Okay, I like this. I'm buying this, which I never would have found on Amazon. Ever.
Right.
And so that's a problem. It does become more challenging to put stuff on the shelf because our options for showing it to people and knowing what they're going to get excited about is that's an evolving landscape and not in a good way. It is challenging, but when you own a store and you have a community of people, you learn what those people like, right?
That makes
sense.
You
know what they want. Alan can attest that he hardly ever signs up for anything on our sign-up sheet anymore because I beat him to it. I sign him up for stuff.
Yeah, I look at the sign-up sheet to see what Josh has signed me up for that month. And surprisingly, there was one that I got signed up for, and I had already decided I wasn't going to read it just simply because of the fact that I had my reasons for not wanting to read it. But it ended up in my box, and I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. Josh, obviously ordered. I need to support the shop. Took it home and loved it. I thought it was great. And Josh, you're going to be shocked when I say this, but Illuminati by AWA.
Oh, no, I told you.
That is what I expect out of AWA. Not that other book they just put out, but Illuminati was brilliant. But
all right.
I tell you why I was super excited about that book, Jeff. Dennis Cowan's doing the art.
Oh.
And guess who's inking him?
I have no idea. Who could
Bill
ink Dennis Cowan?
Sienkiewicz.
Oh, are you shitting me? Oh, okay.
Dennis Cowan. How do you not buy that?
Damn.
But
I had no idea that's what they were working on. Yeah.
But you see, what turned me off to it was that I think he's got a radio show or something that Charlemagne the God,
the rapper,
he's the one that actually wrote the comic. So in my mind, I automatically shifted to this is just a gimmick. I mean, there's not going to be anything to it. It's not going to be worth it. It's just going to be something to sell a few books, and that's about it. But no, he did a fantastic job writing it. I was shocked at how good it was. And it was one of those that the second it ended, you're just like slamming the table. I need issue 2 right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in.
I mean, Dennis Cowan with inks by Bill Sienkiewicz. Like, when does that happen? That's just ridiculous.
I love Bill's stuff. He's another one of those guys who just makes really good comics.
I tell you, he is one that when he was doing Moon Knight when I was a kid, and I saw stuff on Moon Knight, and it was very Neil Adams, Jim Aparo, right? I was like, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. And then he started doing that kind of out there stuff with New Mutants, that really avant-garde experimental stuff. Yeah. And I didn't get it. I was too young for that, and it did not click with me. I was like, what happened here? This is bizarre. Are we sure this is the same guy? Mm-hmm. But then as I got older and I got a lot more, I got a lot smarter and a lot more interested in the hows and whys behind things. The man is a freaking genius. He is incredible.
Yeah. His Demon Bear stuff was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
When I saw that stuff, I'm like, oh, you can do this? I had no idea.
I was talking to Jim Shooter a couple years ago. God rest his soul. I hate that we lost him, but I was talking to him a couple years ago, and I brought up Bill Sienkiewicz, and he goes, he is a mad genius. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, when he started all this stuff with New Mutants, right? He goes, he brought me a piece intended to go in the comic that was this like 4-foot by 6-foot multimedia mixed media painting with 3D elements of like nuts and bolts glued on it. And he's like, what am I supposed to do with this, Bill? How am I supposed to get that in the comic? And Bill said, well, that's your problem.
Right. God love him.
Yeah. Wow.
God, I love him. I wish I had half the artistic balls to do something like that, just to be like, trust me, it's what you want. You want this in your comic book.
That's going to work.
I would love to have that kind of confidence.
Just incredible. But yeah, I ordered this particular book from AWA because Dennis Cowan was drawing it, and the allure of Dennis Cowan art with Bill Sienkiewicz inks was too strong. I have to get this. And it is. It's a beautiful book, and the story is better than I expected, I'll say. But yeah. I figured if nothing else, it would be worth looking at.
You guys, I mean, you had me some. I got a reading list.
Hey, we're good at that. We're good at that.
Yeah, and an assignment. I definitely have to start putting Arlo in the like.
We're going to start with issue 3, playing "Where's Arlo?" Like,
he's definitely going to be.
If you could pull one of those sneaky artist things, and if Josh and I are truly guards at the Magic Library, maybe the sign behind us, we could be strategically standing to where the only thing that you can actually read is Arlo's name. You know.
I'm gonna start.
I love all these little ideas.
Yeah.
Fun. I don't know what it was. Just I just thought that was just a really cool touch, having this backstory for a character who ultimately, at this moment, does not matter to the story itself. But I mean, you now have a backstory. I just thought that was a really cool touch.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite things about the book is reading James's scripts and his short stories. Like, just as a fan, I get to go like before I start drawing anything, I get to really experience it, fresh. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, there's the short story that's in issue 2 about Faye. It begins when she's young, and then it goes over the next 3 issues. I think it's a long story, and you really get to know her as much through from the short story, from the prose story, as you do from the comic. And I think it's just one of those things that you get both, right? Like, there's different experiences of the characters, like one's prose and one through pictures. And I think James really weaves those two things together beautifully. So you get a whole picture of the character. Also, James is doing stuff we're doing character sheets. We're doing D&D style character sheets. And so, you have your character. The character has like their foibles and the things they're good at and things they're not so good at, and their flaws and whatnot. And James has written such great background material. Like, because we have Rhonda, we're gonna have all the main characters. But you get to, if you want, you're gonna play these characters, and you'll have insights that you can only get on the character sheet. That they're not in the comics, and background stuff and some history. So all together, it just forms this complete picture of this world, I think. And that's all James. It's pretty great.
That is freaking brilliant, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're coming on here and saying, what comic are they talking about because you joined late, we are talking about a book called Rogue's Kingdom. The second issue is now up on Kickstarter. The first issue you can also get on this Kickstarter, so you haven't missed it. You don't be like, well, didn't get the first issue, I'm not going to read it. You have not missed it. It's still available. And let me tell you, absolutely well worth getting. It's written by James Robinson. It's got art by Jeff Johnson. And that's a killer team. That's a killer team. And if that doesn't bring you in, I don't know what will. But Alan and I have both read it. We are both super excited about it.
Loved it.
This is, I think, the third or fourth time we've had Jeff come on the show over the years, because we want to encourage people to support guys like Jeff, so he can keep on making these comics, because that's really important to us. So he's got to be able to put food on the table and pay the bills and do all those things. So read the comics, back the Kickstarter. There's all kinds of levels to back at. And I strongly recommend that you do that. If you just desperately don't want to back a Kickstarter, I get that. That's okay. We are doing the retailer level at the shop. So we will have comics available at the shop. So we'll have them there. You could make everybody happy and buy it on the Kickstarter and buy one from the store. I'm just saying.
That's the best. That's absolutely
it's an option.
The best. Yeah.
I have been
like we all did in the 90s, buy one to read and one to send to CGC.
Yeah, really.
Totally.
So I've been trying to share the link to Kickstarter, and it's just such a long link. What I did was, this is Jeff's Instagram page. So if y'all go to his Instagram, he does have a link in his Instagram that will take you straight to the Kickstarter.
I have a quick one I'm putting in the chat. Let me see. This is the easy version. The people that are helping me with the Kickstarter, InkedPub, they set up my QR code, which I'm going to have, and they helped me figure out a way to do like a smaller URL. So that's that link, inkstudios.live/rogues is where people can go to sign up for the Kickstarter. But also, I'm posting about it a ton. Any of my social media things, if they want to come on there, you can see me. You can see me hawking the wares and screaming from the rooftop. There's tons of cool stuff too, like stuff that I would never have done if it wasn't a Kickstarter. Like there's stickers. There's postcards. There's the character sheets,
the bookmarks.
Yeah. All the stuff that you can't really do when you're working on Captain America. But like if it's your own character, you're gonna do T-shirts at some point. And my dream would be to have like I want to get I want to get a dagger, and I want to get a flask with Rogues Kingdom stuff on. I want to have a mead. I want to have all the stuff.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I've got quite a few friends who have just started beekeeping, and they've got hives out the yin yang. So one of them is also tell me, Alan, is Todd's not the kind of guy that you would think makes beer at home? He seems like the type.
I'm going to tell you right now, we could put you in touch with him, and you could probably have Rogues Kingdom honey by the end of the year.
I want Rogues Kingdom honey.
I was going to say honey is one thing, mead is another.
Yeah,
and I think
I want both.
Todd might be the kind of mad scientist to make a great mead.
Fantastic.
To me, I saw one years ago, and I never picked it up, and I kind of wish that I had of, just simply because it was something kind of off the wall I had never seen before. But we have a local grocery store. I think it's like one of the last ones left that's just a locally owned one. It's called Star Market. Mm-hmm. And I had walked in there one day because they do literally have the best pizza on the planet. I'll fight anyone to the death over that comment. But when you're walking out in the wine section, there was actually the Walking Dead red wine.
What? That sounds fantastic.
I looked at it and I was like, that's actually kind of cool, because even the label had the walkers on it. I mean, it was legit The Walking Dead.
Wow.
Y'all should try something like that with Rogues Kingdom. That would be
a full vision of Rogues Kingdom Reds. Like,
yeah, he just designed the bottle label and everything. I bet.
Oh, it's like one of those old school Chianti bottles with the the wicker on the. Yes, yeah.
That'd be so cool.
That and Arlo is now my new business model.
Hey, we're here to help. Whatever.
Excellent.
Because Arlo's was a baker, right?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, you can have bread and wine. I mean, you're good, man.
Perfect.
The
world just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you make Arlo's tarts, they best be right. People have been killed over them things.
Oh my God, it's true. Wine.
Arlo's recipes in the back of the book.
Oh my God, that's another great idea. Oh my God, you guys are crushing it.
This is what we do, man. Almost every Thursday. This is how we live. This is how our brains work. So
I definitely want to have an Arlo cookbook. That's so great with pear tart. Oh, come on.
That would be so great.
See, the way I look at it is I can't have fun, cool things if you don't have fun, cool things. So I've got to support you so I can get my fun, cool things.
That's exactly right. But yes, dude, thank you so much for sticking with us through this whole show, man. You don't have to hang out this long, but we sure are glad you did because we love talking with you.
I had a great time. It's been so good to catch up with you guys. It's been really nice to see it. And I really appreciate all the support and you guys have been there since before the beginning, cheering me on. I really do love it.
Well, we're big fans. Love your work. Love the way that you go about doing it too. It's not just that you're technically very good at what you do, but you've got the kind of personality, the kind of heart that is you want to support a guy like you. And we're big fans, and we want to do that. So we're going to be here every step of the way. Whatever, if you ever need anything, man, give us a shout. We'll come up with crazy ideas and throw them at you all day.
Excellent, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
But thank you so much, guys. Go to the Kickstarter. We have one very short link, very easy. You can do it. Go back this. If you missed the first issue, that's okay. You can get a pack that's the first and the second issue. You can get it signed. You can do all kind of things. You absolutely should do it because it's well worth reading, and it's got a hodgepodge of great things going on behind the scenes, in the background, in the back pages, in the back. Read every page. Read every word on every page because it all matters. It's all relevant. It's just fantastic. Kind of like in Hyde Street where they've got the ads for the old like X-ray specs and piranha people and things. It's kind of like that. It's pertinent to the world. It's a really fun, like quirky read, but it absolutely is pertinent to the world and what's going on. So yeah, guys, support Jeff Johnson and James Robinson. This phenomenal creators doing great stuff, and they're doing it on their own. This isn't with Marvel or DC or anybody behind them. It's them, a passion project that they're working. So support that so they can keep making it.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you so much. You guys all have a wonderful night. We're going to catch you guys next week. So until then, try and stay out of trouble best you can. I know that's hard for a lot of you guys, but I have faith. I think you can do it. And we will catch you guys next time.